I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Nashville Town Council to order at this time. Could you please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, we invite you into our meeting tonight to help us to make wise decisions for the great citizens of Nashville. Amen.
Amen.
The first item on our agenda is approving of the meeting minutes. Let's look at July the 12th, 2020, the call meeting minutes. Did you find any corrections to those?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
The next set of minutes that needs to be reviewed and approved was July the 12th, 2022, the regular meeting minutes. Any corrections?
I have corrections.
Okay.
Page 12 and 13. This is when we were talking about the purchase of the Bobcat. On page 13, there was no discussion needed. We talked about the fact that the trailer was not purchased with the Bobcat. And the Bobcat needs transport. And there was a discussion about that and how the trailer would have to be purchased separately.
Any other correction? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Now we have our public 3-minute comment. Randy, did you want to introduce someone at this time?
I will defer to Sarah.
Okay.
For those of you who may not have already met her or read about her, we wanted to introduce our lead for North Carolina Fellow, Miss Avery Parker. She'll be with us until June 30th of 2023. And without further ado, I'll let her introduce herself.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Avery Parker. I'm a recent graduate of East Carolina University, where I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in political science and a degree in sociology. I was interviewed by Nashville here and also Red Oak, and I was selected as their fellow for the year, and I'll be here, like Sarah said, until June. I have a lot of exciting projects to be working on and a lot of things in both areas that I'm very excited to be working on, so it's great to be here.
We're glad to have you, and it's nice seeing your face when I go up to the town office. The next person, is it Tim Henry?
He's going to be with item 5A.
Oh, so, okay.
Mayor, did you explain to the council about moving that?
We're moving up, yeah, one, as soon as we finish the public hearing, we're going to move up 6F from front of the old business because he has to drive home for 4 hours. James Baker?
James Baker, 103 East Green Street. I was just wanting to know what the status on the sidewalks are. About 3 months ago, my neighbor across the street was riding his bike, and he fell in one of the drainage ditches, and he got a punctured lung. And I just found out this afternoon that my neighbor behind me, that's 85 years old, has fell in town because of the sidewalks, and I just wanted to know what the status when the sidewalk repair work was going to do before somebody else gets hurt.
We're working on that.
Yeah, the council awarded a contract to Weaver's Asphalt and Paving, and they have till the end of September to do that 14-block area of sidewalk repairs, which basically goes from Cross Street to Alston up to Washington to First Street, a 14-block area in there.
And also there's, at the school on Green and Collins, there's a drainage ditch there where there's a grate in the road, and it's really bad. And with school getting started, someone might get hurt.
Thank you. He's making note of that. The next item on our agenda is the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to go into public hearing for our item with Coy about the special events?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Coy, is he in here? There he is.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good.
So the PRCR department plans to host a downtown Halloween event on October 28th from 4 to 8. We did this event last year. It was a partnership with the Parks and Rec Department, the library, the Chamber of Commerce, Town of Nashville Police and Fire Departments. This year, we're continuing that, and we're also partnering with the Sheriff's Department. We started with a fall festival here, then we had carnival-style games, trick-or-treating downtown. The Sheriff's Office had their event in the courthouse parking lot, and we wrapped everything up with a drive-in movie there. This year, we are doing it similar, except we plan on moving the Sheriff's Office up to the street, doing everything on the street side to allow for more parking. And with that, we're requesting to close the street this year, just in an overabundance of safety and the number of people we had attending last year. So,
Coy, what was that number last year?
as far as attendance, we're estimating about 1,000 people,
That's
but
what I
again,
thought.
that's just a rough estimate. So
We just requesting to close that one block in front of
We're-
the courthouse.
Yes, sir. We're requesting to close Washington Street between Barnes and Austin Street and the section of Body Street between Washington and Church.
Oh, okay.
Anybody have anything to say concerning this? If not, do I hear a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
Well, a motion that we agree for him to do that.
Do we do that in the public hearing? I don't, yeah, go ahead.
Close the public hearing
And then do
first.
that, okay. Do I hear a motion that
I
we,
make a motion that we approve
Second.
the plan.
and we close, so we got it all
Yes.
covered? Okay, so that's taken care of. At this time, we're moving item 6F before our old business, and so Randy,
Thank you, Mayor. So on tonight's agenda, we have contracts for the council to consider and award on street resurfacing. We have an asphalt street surface project that we asked for bids for and got back. And then we have one for slurry paving and Cape Seal paving. And we have the low bid for the slurry and Cape sealing with us here this evening. Tim Herbst with Slurry Pavers. And I know not all the council members are familiar with that particular product. Larry and Louise, I believe you guys are, because you were on the council back in 1819 when we last did it, but
1819.
2018, 2019.
Feels
Oh,
like
okay.
1819.
Make sure the records.
Not that, the last time we
show
did
that
it for the roads.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim. He would like to give you a quick overview of what slurry paving and Cape Seal paving is.
Thank you guys for having me in tonight. I'll give you some literature so you can peruse as I talk.
Thank you.
Hard.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You have a short presentation. It's for those of you who don't know what it is. It's different than conventional asphalt paving. We're dealing with an asphalt emulsion, which means it's a water-based product. So we're using asphalt emulsion aggregate. There's a polymer modification to it, and then we put it down very thinly at 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thick. So just news about the product in specific that is good for our industry is that it's being moved to a permanent specification with the Department of Transportation. So the NCDOT is adopting this microsurfacing spec and moving it into their permanent spec book, which comes out next fiscal year in July. So that's really good news for us. Randy? So this is how the machine will look. It is going to be a wet product, and it requires a curing time. So there are breaking and setting additives into it. So once it gets on the ground, it hits, it starts to break, and it cures out. It goes from brown to black, and then we can put traffic on it. There is going to be a period of time that we're going to request that traffic not be on it, and we will never close the road down. We'll always keep one lane of traffic open, okay? So if we're going in front of a driveway, we'll need to allow that to cure for 5 or 10 minutes. And then if somebody really has to get out, we can throw sand on it, let them cross onto it, onto the unpaved section, and let them go. And then once that cures out, we'll flip-flop traffic onto the paved area and then finish the road. So by the time the road is starting to be paved in the morning and the people get home at night, their road will be done. So it's a very quick operation. It takes 10 to 15 minutes to go from that brown to black. And like I said, about an hour-ish for that to cure out, and we'll flip-flop traffic to the other side. This is what the operation will look like. It'll be a smoothing or a burlap drag behind, and that's for texturing and for uniformness of the product to make it look as smooth as possible. And that's what the finished product will look like after it's striped. Nice and black, make the lines pop. If there is any snow, it'll help melt it a little bit faster than an on black pavement. So, and then we're also doing a cape seal. And what a cape seal is we're putting down a chip seal, or as they call it in the state, an AST, or an asphalt surface treatment. So why you do a cape seal is that the road has a little bit more cracking on it than you would like to see for a microsurfacing or slurry to do by itself. So you let that chip seal go in, and you seal the road shut, and then you put the microsurfacing or slurry on top of it. So those two products together are called a cape seal. The life expectancy of a cape seal is, I won't say drastically, but quite a bit longer than a microsurfacing on its own. So a microsurfacing by itself or a slurry by itself, you can look forward to somewhere between 7 to 10 years. With the cape seal, you're going to be 10 plus years of life. So if anybody wants to know where a crack seal or where a cape seal would fit, this is a cape seal candidate before all of that crack sealing. We told the agency just to go in and crack seal the center line, and they thought they were doing their due diligence and we'll help them out and we'll crack seal everything. Well, that's not what it was meant for. That's what the chip seal will address. Go ahead. So this is a picture of a chip seal. It's been done on the right-hand lane, and then we're putting the micro on top of it to the gutter pan next, and then the finished product. So in the end, very asphaltic looking. Asphalt residue is what is left. Very dense product. A lot of macro texture. It'll promote friction and promote safety and give you long life. Randy? And I just want to show you a couple of pictures with some large cities that have been doing this. The appropriation that you guys are making for this program is a very substantial amount of money for the size of city that you are, town that you are. Durham, we're showing here, is about a $6.5 million program. So just to show you that it is being used on a wide scale deal, if you did the next one. That's kind of hard to see, but that was just all the different products they're using, from cape seals to microsurfacings to paving, and so it's all encapsulated in this one project. And this is some of the look of their slurry afterwards and in the striping. Go ahead. Kind of the right when it's been put down on the left, and after that water gets out of it and it goes from brown to black, that's the way that it looks. And then this is a 2-year-old slurry micro after it's got some age on it. Still very usable surface, still nice and dark. And then we did a couple of roundabouts, a lot of handwork, but very doable. That's why this product is is being looked at. And I never like to talk against cost, but why a lot of agencies like yourself are looking at this is because of cost. Right now, because of asphalt prices, I can get 3 to 3.5 miles of this to every 1.5 mill and fill of asphalt. So it's really stretching the dollars and getting the miles behind it. In Greenville, North Carolina, they subscribe to a ratings system. They rate all the roads 0 to 100. They have a third party rate their roads, and then they focus on roads that are 85 to 70, where some of the life has come down out of it. It's not in real bad shape yet, and this is where they focus their maintenance. So that's the legend for that. And then their roads that we did this year. So that's it. But we thank you, and we look forward to
Do you
your
have
work.
any questions for Tim?
I've got one, one question. A couple of years ago, when we first used slurry seal, Miss Hinton, myself, and our former mayor, we went up to a stretch of Virginia, southbound section of Virginia, where slurry seal had been put down. Has that section of the highway had to be redone? Or do you know
If
that?
it was back during the dates that Randy mentioned, the answer would probably no.
No?
No. No, like I said, the life expectancy is going to be in the 7 to 10 year range. So if it was before that you went, I'm going to say I don't know. But if it was within that time frame, I would probably say no, it's still there.
Okay. Well, the reason I brought that question up is because I figure if it could withstand the traffic on I-95, then it would certainly withstand the traffic here in town.
Absolutely. The reason that microservicing, how it came about was back in the 1970s in Germany, and they basically designed it to fill the wheel ruts on the Autobahn. I can put microservicing down 2 inches thick. What makes it tough and what makes it durable at that thickness is the latex polymer modification. It makes it wear like iron and very, very tough. The trade-off sometimes, it can be hard, which it'll then mirror what's underneath of it. So that's why we put that chip seal underneath of it to weld the cracks shut, and then put the micro on top of it. But yeah, it was actually designed for highway use, and then it kind of found its way into the local market.
Okay.
I don't think we've done cape sealing here before. We did slurry.
We just did slurry.
Now, which streets have slurry right now?
Okay, Green Street, Fort Street,
Okay.
Church was asphalted.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Park Avenue, okay.
and we had cracking at the corner of Park Avenue and Fort, some serious cracking from the slurry, which, you know, we were looking for things like that, and so, I don't know if you noticed that.
I think I did, but
That may be why you moved, if you just did slurry. When I speak of slurry or micro, it's kind of the same animal, just to let that chip seal weld that shut. And we do a lot of chip sealing actually before asphalt paving for that very reason. But for a cost savings measure and to get more miles out of it, you put the micro on top because it costs less.
From First Street to Alston, the slurry that was done on that section, it's, if you drive with it, it's like a roller coaster. It's very, probably we should have asphalted. It probably need to be milled.
Right. If you're feeling that type of motion, you're probably feeling what's going on underneath it also. So if you're at a stop-start point, a lot of times with the heat that's incurred within the state, those type of areas can move. And the slurry is going to go along with it. So a lot of times you can cut out and repair a certain section if you have too much of that. And then I would assume the rest of the road is okay. Yeah. But, yeah, you have my card, and I'm going to be, I've just been in the state now for 4 months, but I've been doing this for 25 years. So I'm looking forward to working with the town, and I'll be a liaison from here on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor, one thing to add before you guys consider these two bids. We've been having some discussion about our CMAC sidewalk project and whether or not we're going to be able to do that. If you'll recall that 500, well, it's 411,000. We have to match it with 102,000 of our own, and we budgeted for that project this year because the funding is available now through the DOT. But that award was done in 2018, and prices have really gone up since then. Staff is still pursuing to do that project. Sherry and I had a meeting with the NPO, and we're going to ask for the north. We had two projects, taking sidewalk from Washington up to 64, and then from Glover Park down to South Creek on South First Street or 58. We're going to ask for the first part to do at a later time, but take that money and apply it to the south part and see if we can get it done for that. If we can, we may have to back off on how much quantity of slurry paving we do. I talked with Tim and his boss Chuck Ingram today, and their understanding of that, they're willing to hold their unit prices even if we do 13,000 cubic yards of less slurry sealing. So I appreciate that very much. At this point in time, I can't tell the council for sure if we're going to be able to do the CMAC sidewalk project. We're going to try our hardest, but it may just be more expense than we have money for at this time. and we'd have to reappropriate and redo it for the following fiscal year.
Maybe DOT must understand that when we got that grant, the cement grant, back in 18, they didn't have the funding for it, and so it was put off and put off and put off. So finally, when we get the money, prices have gone up.
Unfortunately, the grant award hasn't gone up, and so,
But at some point, is it worth it to the town?
yeah, well, you have to wonder. And a lot of that, because we're using federal funds, there are many more requirements to have to comply with, which increases the cost of the engineering and all the other work. It comes to the point where if we don't use the federal funds and we just use our $102,000 a match, maybe we can get it all done for that. I don't know.
And do you think they would let us hold off a year or two to see if prices do go down?
CMAQ, we're probably going to be in that position. We're not going to lose the award because we're not the only ones. When we met with Jordan Reedy and the DOT people today via Teams meeting, we're one of 4 sidewalk projects in the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Planning Area that are experiencing the exact same thing. So we're not going to lose our award. We just may not be able to do it at this time and have to push it forward to a future year.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution 2022-28 awarding the 22-23 Cape Seal and Slurry Seal Street Resurfacing Project to the Slurry Pavers?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so kindly.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the Donald Street with our forest replacement reseeding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As a follow-up of our presentation on the 21st of June, where you asked for more information, we've got some more information, which is pretty much the same stuff which is in your package, which I'm sure you read. The last issue we looked at was approximately a figure of $10,000 to do our planting across 30 acres of land with pine and the fall cypress and blacktop. We now have the bids in. The only person who bid on the same alliance member over in Scarborough, and they want $11,700 for this, which is $1,200 more than the original figure we were talking about. And according to what I understand, we got 4,500 of this in the budget, the rest has to come from the service money. The plan will further, as we go along from year to year, would require spraying at a rate of $3,000 a year for 4 years. Then after that, it's every other year for a couple of years. Then after that, they're all year. So the manager has suggested that we go forward with this thing. So that's where we are. We've got to move now because the Alliance is holding plants for us. We've got a 2-week on the 2 weeks hold on the plants. If we don't get it in 2 weeks, it'll be gone. And then close the plant season for this year. But we need to move on this thing, get this stuff sprayed out, get ready for the January planting.
Do you have any questions?
I'm kind of disappointed that we only got one bid out of 7.
Yeah, that's what we got.
I talked with Seth, from Forest Service, and he said that we could qualify for an urban forestry grant, possibly. Coy, did you?
I spoke with Andrew Finninger about that today. He says the money he's talking about there is in the National Arbor Day Foundation. It's kind of a lottery thing. And there's more money in the state forestry replant grant money. That also comes as a lottery type thing. We'd have to go into probably another year without planting anything. So and then that's a real iffy thing anyway, if we could even qualify for it.
I had a question about the acreage. On the map that we have, it says it's 23.53 acres. Is that an accurate number, Randy?
30 was the.
30 is what this quote is.
That's
and
what
I
I've
was
heard.
wondering how much
I'm
of
not
it
sure
would come
what
down
one.
because everything is based
Yeah.
per acre.
Yeah, I'm not sure what specific acreage is.
That property's in two parcels, and that's just got the larger parcel highlighted there, is what that 23 acres is.
So the total is 30?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other?
Now, there's a question about the survival rate of the hardwoods of 30%. River bottom hardwoods are tough trees. They live in a world of survival of the fittest. These fellows, once they've got massive root balls on them and massive canopy, and they'll clear all the land around them. So they clear themselves out. So part of the Dow of it is not a matter of just dying plants. They just simply choked out by those plants. That's just the growth rate. Pines are not like that because they don't have that same type of root or canopy system.
Any other questions or discussion?
Corey, did you speak with Seth today, or he emailed you?
Yes, ma'am. I did speak with Seth, and we are on the schedule for them to write a reforestation plan for that property. There is no charge for them to do that, and that could potentially qualify us for some of those programs that Dr. Street talked about. Again, none of that is guaranteed, so it's kind of a scenario where we need to be prepared to pay that full amount. We're going to pursue those options and try to get reimbursed for some of those costs of planning, but it's not a guarantee that we're going to get that.
So if we qualify, we could get reimbursed?
For a portion of it, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
So what is the desire of the board? Move.
It's disappointing that the 7 outfits that we reached out to, only one responded.
Well, that's,
Make 'em.
I don't know, I don't understand tree planters. I replanted right much land over the last 3 years, and it's hard to get people to even do these things. I've worked with one person, and he retired. He turned stuff over to his son, and his son just quit. So I was waiting to plant trees. I lost 2 whole years of just waiting for somebody else to get in line. So that's a real iffy situation. I'm surprised they even got that for what we're doing. So anyway.
Do I hear a motion for us to move forward with the tree board's recommendation and plant half of the property in the pines and then the other with the mixed cypress and black gum?
Regrettably, we didn't get but one bid back to us, but that being the case, I move that we go forward.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. The new business, the first one is our personnel policy changes. Matthew?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we did have 6 changes in our personnel policy. The first one is vacation leave accrual rate, which we passed at the last meeting. We just added another definition in here to clarify the years of service credit will only be granted to employees who have active time in the local government retirement system from another agency. The next item would be the travel expense and reimbursement. We added further clarification to this policy to just point out that we will only pay for employees' travel expenses, hotels. Employees can only ride in town provided vehicles, just to cover us from a liability perspective. One correction I do want to add to that statement in the attachment where we put only employees are to drive or ride in town provided vehicles, as well as employees are the only ones allowed to stay in town funded hotel rooms. We are going to add this statement unless otherwise approved by the town manager. The law enforcement separation allowance is the next item. We removed a statement in this that stated, with the consideration that the law enforcement officer may no longer be able to perform law enforcement work. This statement kind of conflicts with other parts of the policy and the general statutes that govern this allowance. So, according to North Carolina general statutes, a law enforcement officer can receive the separation allowance as long as they are not participating in the local government retirement system. So if they took another job in state employment or a part-time position that didn't require Elgers, then they could still get the allowance. The next item, the floating holiday, which was approved at the last meeting. So when we went back to load these hours into our system, we were having some issues and realized that it should be calendar year instead of fiscal year for this floating holiday. It just makes it easier for tracking purposes and financial payouts, and that's how other holidays are distributed. So for this policy, we would change the end of year date from June 30th to December 31st. We also added the statement, nor will it be paid out, because as we previously stated, the time for that holiday doesn't roll over. They have to use it or lose it. Transfer of sick leave from previous employer. We removed the statement, transferred sick leave will be credited to the employee upon completion of the probationary period. The rationale was, once we accept the employee's time when they transfer from another local government agency, once we accept it, we have to be the new holder of that time. And they have to transfer it within 3 months. So our current policy states that they can't use it until they're out of their probationary period. But if we're the new holder of the time and their probationary period is 6 months to a year, and the employee's out sick, this could cause a hardship on them, and they shouldn't be allowed to use the time. Sick time is not paid out upon termination, so if we change this policy, it does not impose a financial burden on the town. The last item, excuse me, is the Family and Medical Leave Act. That policy, we removed the statement, earned compensatory time may also be used during FMLA leave. They can use compensatory time. We just reworded the policy to state that if they're on FMLA, if eligible, they can use sick time first, or they can use accrued leave time. With FMLA guidelines, only recommends or states that we have to give the employee non-paid time. We have to give them 12 weeks of FMLA. But it does state that we can't require the employee to take paid time as long as it's in our policy. That'll help, cut down on the compensatory time as well.
Any questions for Matthew? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the resolution 2022-27, making updates and changes to the town's personnel policies?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. The next item on our agenda is awarding a retired service weapon.
Good evening, how are y'all doing?
Doing good.
As y'all know, Chief Puckett retired. His last day was July 31st, 2 months ago. It's customary in our line of work that when a law enforcement officer retires with his 30 years of service, that his duty weapon is retired to him. So I'm asking y'all if we could award Chief Puckett his duty weapon that he toted for 3 years while he was chief here for our town.
Any thoughts or questions for Chief Winston? If not, do I hear a motion that we adopt the resolution of awarding former Chief Anthony Puckett his service firearm, and is at a price of what?
It's in this,
dollars, whatever.
it's zero.
Yeah, zero.
I was-
Is there a second? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the budget amendments. John?
Budget amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 23 is the library received a $15,000 grant to buy from the State Library of North Carolina to purchase a book bike. This is just recognizing that grant for $15,000.
Please approve the budget amendment.
Second.
All those in favor? Next.
Budget Amendment 2 is due to the retirement of Chief Puckett and in compliance with NC General State Statute 143, 166, 42. This is to pay for the separation allowance for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Do I hear a motion?
Is this number fund balance?
Yes.
How many years?
Until he turns 62, and I believe he's 51 currently. So it'll extend until 2030, August of 2034, and in the same amount.
Do I hear a motion to approve that budget amendment?
So made.
All those in favor? The next one.
This is the ICAC grant that was awarded last year in Budget Amendment 27. Only $3,000 of that was spent, and this is just recognizing it for current year. The state just wanted one reimbursement request, so that's why we split it up.
Would you tell us about the grant one more time?
The ICAC grant, Chief, it was the
It's Internet Crimes Against Children. We have 2 officers that are sworn with SBI against internet crimes. They had a grant last year, the governor presented out. I applied for it, and they were able to award us $45,000. Their rule of it is that we have one reimbursement, so we have to purchase all the equipment up front, and then they want one reimbursement with everything on there. So, but we have partnered with SBI to combat some internet crimes around here, along with anybody else in the state.
Good. Do I hear a motion to approve this amendment 3? Second, is there a second? All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Amendment 4.
Amendment 4 was after the budget was passed in June. The state drug funds got a deposit from the state for $16,466. Since it was after the budget, obviously it wasn't budgeted for. This is just allowing it to be spent this year.
When you say drug funds, forfeiture?
Yeah, forfeitures. Anything beyond that's a JT question. I don't.
It's like with drug bust?
Yes.
Yes, drug court.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, John. And we've covered our next item, which was 6D, so let's go to 60 Baker Street borderline replacement project.
Mayor, actually, we do need to do 6D. It's a different project. It's the street asphalting.
6D, okay. Go ahead with that one.
So we had asked, we had let a bid out for asphalting streets in town, and we got 6 bids back on that. Williams Paving from Bailey was the low bid at $254,866. Weaver's Asphalt, the maintenance company, was a close second at $269,000. Marshall Contracting and Asphalting was third at $279,000. B&K Grading and Paving in Rocky Mount was $325,000. Harris Grading was $333,000, and Turner Asphalt from Raleigh was $534,000. So the streets that are included in this, Birchwood Drive from First Street to the Elks Lodge, North Clarendon, South Clarendon, South Smith Street, which is over by the town shop, along with South Clark Street, Lakeview Drive, which is out on Western Avenue, and Lakeview Court, which is a cul-de-sac basically at the end of Lakeview Drive.
These are streets that are in really bad shape.
They're the worst, yes.
And those heavily traveled are probably virtually North Clarendon, South Clarendon.
Yes, and once we get North Clarendon done, the DOT has expressed interest in doing a jurisdictional transfer. They would take North Clarendon and give us a portion of South Brooklyn, I believe, and 6th Street, which are currently state routes, and not very heavily traveled compared to North Clarendon.
The only thing I'd like to add, I already spoken to Mr. Lanson about that, we need to take a look at Murphy Street as well to add into this because we've had some construction work and tore the street up. It already had potholes and stuff in it, but it is a mess now, so I think we need to include Murphy Street. If you take a look at that, I appreciate it.
Just gonna ask too though, do we have anything, so like Birchwood, for example, if anything comes to fruition over there as far as mega construction, do we have anything where developers would have to fix or reimburse if any of the streets are torn up because of heavy trucks or?
Like an impact fee of some
Right.
type? We don't. This distance on Birchwood purposely avoids
Any better?
that portion which Robbie Davis and Jason Davis are building homes on right now. It's our hope next year that, you know, they will have where the swimming pool, well, we're going to go past where the swimming pool is anyway, because the water and sewer is on the north side, and to stub services into those 3 lots that they created isn't going to cut up the street. But further east on Birchwood, we're going to be digging through the street to give water and sewer to those lots that they parceled off. And next year, it's our hope that we can overlay that portion of Birchwood. But most of their construction traffic is going to be using Club Drive to get to, and then they'll be on Washington Street, East Washington, which is a state route.
But do we have something to combat any problems like what Larry was just saying? Damage to
We
streets?
don't at the present time. And I know there are communities out there that do, when a development is coming in, have discussions with the developers at the time of permitting the development about impact fees. Now, if you remember, when Robbie Davis was proposing his Birchwood Preserve, he was going to redo Club Drive as part of that project, and including a roundabout there where Birchwood and Club Drive come together. So that kind of addresses it.
Any questions for Randy on this? If not, do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 2022-26 awarding the 2022 asphalt street overlay project to Williams Paving Company as recommended by Randy?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Our next is the Baker Street waterline replacement project.
So unfortunately, some of our failing infrastructure, we have 2-inch water lines that once we get our asset inventory assessment finished, we will have a list of those, and we will be using ARPA money that we receive to abandon those in place and put new water lines alongside of them and reconnect everybody. Baker Street is one of them that can't wait. We've had a number of water leaks at its intersection with First or 58, and we need to get that taken care of sooner than later. So we've worked with Stocks Engineering to come up with a plan to do that. We have in this proposal an engineering contract with Stocks Engineering to do the engineering on that, because we want to put a fire hydrant on that portion of Baker Street, because there currently isn't one there. We need to put a 6-inch water line from Brake Street under 58 or First Street to Baker Street. And because we're upsizing the size of the line, NCDEQ regulations require we submit detailed plans by an engineer and get permitting for it. So this is a contract with Stocks Engineering to do the design and the plan on that, to submit the permitting to NCDEQ, and then to oversee the construction of the project thereafter. So this contract is also subject to the Minnie Brooks Act, which requires anytime a local unit of government seeks or needs professional services such as engineering or contract architects, and if it's under a certain threshold, instead of going through a qualified base selection process to select that professional to do that work for us, we can, on a project-by-project basis, waive that requirement if the professional service fees are under $50,000. This contract proposed with Stocks Engineering is for $14,100. So staff is recommending the council exempt ourselves from the Minnie Brooks requirement and then award this engineering contract to Stocks Engineering.
Randy, you said we had 5 repairs.
They have asphalt to put back in place, so there's a cost for that, and we've been fortunate, we haven't had to shut down 58 or First Street to traffic, but, you know, that bad water line goes underneath of there. Items and sleeves and stuff, pretty much out of stock. It hasn't been a tremendous amount of money we spent there, but it's adding up. And it's an old galvanized line, so obviously it's not getting any better. Its days are numbered.
It'd just be interesting to know how much money's already been spent.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution exempting the town from the Minnie Brooks Act requirements for the Baker Street water line replacement? So all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. And we've covered number F, is that correct? So now we go to G 2022 pay study correction.
So we discovered after the fact that our pay study for non-public safety employees granted years of service in a current position. And we had 2 employees that, because they went from Public Works basically to Park and Rec last year, and were reclassified that way, only got credit for 1 year. They're essentially doing the exact same thing they were doing before, and they got shortchanged significantly by the pay study because of the result of that. I worked with John and Matt to try and see if we could accommodate that within the amount of money that we have budgeted in the FY23 budget. And it was beyond what we felt we could pull together in order to treat these 2 employees fairly per that pay study. So I have a request to the council tonight to consider granting these 2 employees their years of service in their positions, since they haven't essentially changed since they were hired 21 and a half years ago and 19 and a half years respectively. And on the agenda report, that'll be it would be an adjustment and an increase in Park and Rec's payroll line item of $15,807, which includes the state retirement, FICA, Medicare, and the 401k.
And that covers everything that has been unpaid until this point.
Yeah, it would be retroactive back to the beginning of the fiscal year, which was July 1st.
Any questions for Randy?
So we aren't going to fund balance.
John, maybe you can answer that question quick. Will this come out of fund balance, or
Yes.
can this, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium and giving the explanation?
That would be a yes. What was just requested was yes, out of fund balance.
And how much would that be?
15, the number is quoted. 15,000 whatever.
Okay, all right.
John, it says here that, with the purchase of a good used pickup truck, that you do not feel a budget amendment would be required.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the budget amendment would be required because, so we budgeted 40,000 for the cemetery vehicle. We actually spent 20,000. Well, I guess it isn't appropriate in fund balance. So we budgeted $40,000 for the cemetery vehicle. We spent 20. That 20 would go into fund balance and then be taken out for this.
Okay.
So
So it's
it's
really
covered.
this trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. The next item on our agenda is to set a public hearing on the purchase of 200 South Body Street for our Parks and Rec.
So as you know, the council authorized a purchase offer on the Acme Cleaners building. That was accepted. We had a 60-day investigation period. We've had the opportunity to have our own environmental assessment done on the property, which came back favorably. And this is the next step to go forward with the purchase of this because it's real estate. We are required by NC General Statute to schedule and hold a public hearing on the purchase of real estate.
So that the date for the hearing has been set September the 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Concerning that property, do I hear a motion that we do this, set that date for the public hearing?
I just want to make sure two things happen first. The expiration of that 60-day period is after that, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's September 19th.
Okay, and then the professional letter of opinion from that environmental assessment.
We haven't gotten it
council?
yet.
Okay, but we should have it before that.
Yeah.
public
Yeah,
hearing.
I'll talk to Chuck Huffman from Mid-Atlantic Environmental tomorrow about that.
Perfect.
Okay, so do I have a motion to set the public hearing September 6th? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And then if you will look, I think we can cover this tonight, or do we just need to look at this and then get back on it at our next meeting?
If you guys want to discuss it, for some reason our software has not put that on the agenda. But what it is, we're scheduled to have the West Water Tower painted this fall. And we have the opportunity to have something more significant than just Nashville put on it. So wanted to have a discussion among the council. What would you like to see painted on the West Water Tower? It is a prominent structure as you approach Nashville from west to east. And you can see it from just about anywhere within town. So it would be nice to have something more than just the name.
And I liked what we talked about earlier, just putting Nashville and then putting the original Nashville, or that way, it's just.
So the mock-up that Public Works has on there is obviously take out Public Works, but would we consider doing something like in script, the original Nashville with this and then the star for where Nashville is, or you want just letters?
That's up to the council.
I'm personally not in agreement with putting this on anything because the council did not approve or disapprove this image of our town seal. This is not an official seal from Nashville. So if we're going to do this,
Well, I don't know that I would put an official seal on the water tower.
no, not the water tower.
I'm just thinking like this is what we have on our banners in town, and it's just a map of where our location is with the original. But if you want to just have wording, that's fine too.
Wording.
Is there extra cost for doing the map?
There probably would be. The lettering, not, from what they've told us. But if we put, the image of the state of North Carolina, we could adjust Nashville, and the I in Nashville could be at the location where Nashville is within the state. I don't know how we could incorporate so that you could see as you drive by, it says the original Nashville, but we can get some mock-ups and some drawings on that and have those for the next meeting if you're liking that idea. I think some of the thought the staff had would not necessarily be an outline of the state, but just have Nashville, and then above it, it may be a cursive font or an italics font, the original, and then Nashville in a bolded block letter font.
Mock-ups would be great for CRS.
Let's get some mock-ups for the chief.
Okay?
And you're not asking about cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
If it's
obviously.
more expensive, we'll go with letters.
When do we address the fact that our public works vehicles have this on it?
It was never discussed.
It was never been brought up.
Yeah.
It was just.
So, it was the staff that thought we had so many generations of seals and different logos on our public works trucks, and a lot of them were faded. You couldn't tell what they were anymore and coming off. And this idea came up, it was brought to me, and I like that image on the trucks. I know we didn't bring it to the council for discussion, but we don't have a whole lot in those. I mean, they're like $60 a decal, and we don't have a ton of them. Public Works has held off putting anything on a couple of our bigger trucks and 4 of the newer trucks that we recently got. So if there's any traction for that, great. If you have an idea that you would propose instead, we're fine with that too.
My concern is we've got 2 different things on our
Right.
vehicles through town.
Right, it should be uniform,
It
whatever
should be,
it
it
is.
should be uniform.
I personally like this. I think we are the county seat, but to have the Nash County Courthouse, we are Nashville separate from that. So I personally like this, but I think it should be uniform, and I think it needs to be a decision made by everyone. But we can do that another night.
Yeah, we'll give that to you guys to ponder until the September 6th meeting, and then we'll have it on the agenda for discussion.
Randy, do you have any other comments for tonight?
No, I'm good, Mayor, thank you.
Any council members?
I have a question about the Elm Street, Main Street water leak. Is that put to bed?
It is. I talked to Chuck Braswell today and said, I don't believe you have as much time as you thought you were going to. And he told me he didn't honestly have a chance to look at how much time they had in it. He's going to do that, and hopefully they will adjust that cost down so it won't be as much. Did reach out to Nash County because, see if they would concede to maybe having some responsibility for that with all the heavy construction they have with their jail project. No traction there, and no traction from their construction company of Daniels and Daniels.
Maybe next time we shut down the way that we originally said we were going to and go a couple days with our guys fixing it.
I have a question that, Chris, you might be able to address it. What's the update on Camelot?
Update on
Camel fire. So Thursday night, we had that lightning storm. That pile was actually struck by lightning. We went out there Friday morning when it was burning the first time. We dug it out. We thought we had it. Saturday night, it blew us back out there because it had started back up. And we worked through it. We tried a different method this time. You noticed the smoke wasn't as bad. So they kept overloading it, and we kept bringing it out. We kept putting it down with the truck. That's what we kept doing. So actually, it's out now. So we were actually able to work better this time than we had before. So, but we're positive the lightning struck. We had a house building struck by lightning at the same time. So lightning was bad Thursday night.
Thank you.
That storm that came through really was bad. I left my residence the other day going somewhere, and I looked over my shoulder and I said, well, damn, there's something black laying in my front yard. And I thought that the shingles had come off the roof. So when I got back, I checked it out. And that wind was so strong, it pulled the shutters off my windows.
Was that the day of the downdraft or something?
Yeah, it was terrible. But it ripped the shutters out of the brick off my building, off my house. But it was really, really tough. And since I am talking there, since Randy didn't have anything, I want to again welcome our intern that's with us. And we didn't mention it, I don't think, maybe I was missing, but our new assistant fire chief happens to be with us tonight. For those that don't know,
Stand up and let us
would you
see
stand
you.
up, please? So we know.
We're glad you're here.
Welcome back home.
Glad to be back.
All right. And other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Lynn? We're glad you're up and out.
Yes.
Justine Jacoby.
I have one thing, Chief Lanston.
Yes, ma'am.
I really appreciate your updates on what's going on in town.
Yes, ma'am.
For every shift. it's kind of sketchy, but it gives us an idea of all that you're having to deal with.
I don't want to overwhelm y'all with a lot of information, but I think it's good that y'all know what my guys are dealing with every day. And if y'all ever got any questions about what we're dealing with, just call me direct and we'll go from there. Since I'm back up here, I want to thank Mr. Lansing for promoting me and him thinking it was a good idea. And apparently y'all think it's a good idea because we both still have jobs. So I greatly appreciate it, and I look forward to continuing moving great things.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Particularly, there's a lot of activity on 64, just we're patrolling 64.
We handle the wrecks from 64 alternate, just about 2 miles shy of Oak Carriage Road. And a lot of that was so where we got the GSHP grant, the Governor's Highway Safety Program, we had to get some statistical data and traffic stops. And also, my thinking behind that when we started it, and I convinced Chief Buck that it was a good idea that our guys went out there, is because Officer Yates is our traffic guy, the amount of wrecks that he's going to encounter, and it's not of when, it's a matter of time until we have a fatality in town, and I don't want to be that his first time to ever figure it out. So us, and Highway Patrol is short-staffed. There are 200 troopers down. Come 7 o'clock tonight, there's 1 trooper in Edgecombe and Nash County splitting it. So we're also helping them out, and they're helping us out with different stuff. So we do patrol from 64 alternate, just shy of Oak Carriage Road. So.
Anything else, Louise? How about?
Thank you.
Again, we thank all of you for coming out and caring about our town, and for all the people that are here that work for our town. We appreciate you every day. But anyway, if there are no other items to attend to, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So late.
And second, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Meeting is adjourned.